In this video, I'm going to go over old school bob and weave technique. Now, I'm getting these techniques out of one of my favorite books, which is Jack Dempsey's Championship Fighting. If you haven't read this book, there's a free online PDF you can download, or like how I got my book, you can just order it off Barnes & Noble or Amazon for 20 bucks. Now let's begin.
Millions of fans turn out to watch Jack Dempsey spar in 1919.
One of the first things you notice when you watch Jack Dempsey fight is not that he's just super aggressive, taking the fight to his opponent, but he's a tall man that fights out of a low crouch or a medium crouch, and he loves the bob and weave. All right, he loves slipping punches, bobbing under punches, and then bobbing and weaving. And that's what I'm going to explain of kind of the old method, the Jack Dempsey, Rocky Marciano style of bobbing and weaving, which is relatively different than what we see today and in the Peekaboo style. So the first thing you need to do is the stance. Dempsey talks about having a high stance, someone who stands tall, a medium crouch, okay, or semi-crouch, and then a low crouch. Dempsey prefers to fight out of the medium crouch, which I do too. Reason why is, especially if you're tall, Jack Dempsey was 6'1", I'm 6'2", so we're relatively the same size. I'm like 194 right now. He was 188, 190 in his prime. So when you're a taller fighter, especially going against shorter fighters, the last thing you want to do is keep your head up. All right, it's so easy to get knocked out or hit with your head up. Now, obviously, if you're a taller fighter and you control the outside range, control the distance with footwork, you can stay away from a lot of those punches. But for the most part, I'm going to do in the medium or semi-crouch. Dempsey would usually hold the left hand out. He would kind of hold his head off to the right-hand side, have the rear hand up for defense, and then a lot of times he would drop that lead hand down a little bit, okay? One of the things you'll notice about all the old school fighters like Dempsey, Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, a lot of them, they didn't have a lot of blocking like this. They did a lot of head movement, hand blocking, and then they kept their hands a little bit lower, okay? So keep that in mind. So the first thing you want to learn how to do is slipping punches. Now, during the course of this video, because a lot of videos on my channel focus on the Peekaboo style of fighting, I'm going to kind of reference this against the Peekaboo style, kind of show the difference of a custom model Peekaboo fighter and like an old school Jack Dempsey fighter. So first of all, you're in a medium semi-crouch stance. I'm here. I'm not low crouch, I'm medium. Okay, so the first technique we're going to do is slip right, slip left. I'm just going to slip in. See how I'm doing that? I'm moving my head from here, slip as that punches go by. Slip, slip, slip. Okay, Dempsey doesn't really do it. Now, a Peekaboo slip, you bend more at the waist. I slip side to side like a Peekaboo, like a windshield wiper, or a upside down pendulum. But the Dempsey is I'm just slip in, slip in, slip in. Now I could be stepping in with that. I can step in on my slips and counterpunch, okay? So that's slipping. Now the second thing we're gonna do is called the bob. The bob is how you bob or duck under hooks. So if a hook comes from this side, I'm gonna bend. Remember, I'm in that medium crouch. I'm gonna keep my legs bent, but I'm not gonna bend them anymore. Maybe a little bit, but I'm gonna bend at the waist. I'm gonna hinge, or Dempsey calls it jackknife. So watch how I do the bob. Bob, I'm gonna bend at the waist. I'm gonna keep my eyes up on my opponent, but I'm gonna bend as the hook goes over my head. Hook comes aside, bend. That's the bob. The third method I'm gonna go over is called a slip bob. So at any time you bob, you gotta be prepared to slip too, just changing the angle of your head. So if I bob down and then go to the side, that's a slip bob. If I bob down here and then go to the side, maybe I miss an uppercut. Okay, give an example. I bob the hook, he throws a right uppercut, I slip bob. Now I can also combine the bob and the slipping motion together to do another version of the slip bob where I go here. So I bend, I hinge. Now I'm bobbing, not in the middle, but to the side as a slip bob. So I got a slip, slip, bob, and slip bob. Slip bob, okay? So the last part to complete the bob and weave is if I slip bob to the side, when I move my head to the other side, that's the weave. All right? So if I slip bob, bob, weave. So I can do this in combination. I can bob, slip, slip, slip bob, weave, weave, bob, slip bob, weave, and I'm moving my head all over the place. Now I'm going to show you how to use it against an opponent. So now we're going to show you how to do the slip, the bob, and the bob and weave against opponent when they punch. So when you're facing off your opponent, remember, I'm not standing tall. I'm not in that crouch. I'm going to start with a medium crouch. Got my left hand up for my guarding hand, and then I can kind of have the left hand up and out or down if I want. So the first thing we're going to do is a slip. So he throws that jab, outside slip. So he does it again, slip, slip. He throws it again, slip. Okay, now I can slip inside the jab. He throws the jab, slip, slip. Okay, so let's go back and forth. I'm going to slip out, slip in. He throws the cross at me, I can slip out. He throws the cross, I can slip in. So slips are used mainly against straight punches. So that's the slip. Now let's go to the bob. Remember, the bob is different. All right, different than a stereotypical or a peekaboo weave. And I'm going to show that here in a minute. So when I'm in my stance, he throws that rear hook. I'm just going to bob down, up, bob down, up. Bob down, up. You see where I bend, I hinge at the back, the lower back. I keep my eyes on my opponent's chest, but I bend, I jackknife the upper body. So again, he throws the right hook, bob, bob. Okay, that's the bob. Now a slip bob, there's two ways you can do the slip bob. Remember, at any time when I bob, I got to be prepared to slip. So give you an example like I showed earlier. He throws a hook to my head. Now he throws an uppercut. Rear uppercut, and I slip. So he throws the lead hook, I bob, I stay down, and he throws the uppercut, and I slip. So do it again. So go hook, uppercut, bob, slip. Should I move my head? All right, but a slip bob is he throws a jab, let's say he throws a jab, and I slip and bob and I get low. So he throws a cross, slip bob. So just a quick reminder, not reminder, a review. He throws a jab, slip. He throws a jab, slip. All right, he throws a hook, bob. Throws a hook, bob. All right, he throws a jab, slip bob. Throws a cross, slip bob. All right, the slip bob is I slip and bob together. Now I'm going to do the bob and weave. So he throws that rear hook. I'm going to bob and weave. He throws a hook here, weave, bob, weave. So I'm adding that weaving motion to it. So that is old school slipping, bobbing, and weaving. So now I'm going to spend a couple minutes showing you two different ways to counter punch out of your slip, your bob, and your bob and weave. So the first thing you want to do, the best method of counter punches off a slip is to simultaneously hit them at the same time. But it's also the hardest to do. So let me give you an example. All right, he throws a jab and I slip out, right? Now, if I slip and jab on the inside of his jab, at the same time, now I'm slipping and counter punching. So he throws his jab, hit. He does it again, hit. Okay? Same thing, if I add the cross to the body, I slip on the inside of the jab, I can throw the cross to the body. So he throws that jab, I slip, cross to the body. So he does it again, hit, hit. Okay? So you can get the point that when I'm hitting and slipping at the same time, is usually the best method of counterpunching. Now, one of the best ways to counter the jab is using the slip and the cross. So, in general, when I throw that straight right, it's called a straight right. So if I throw a jab and then a straight right, the minute I slip and go over his jab, that's when it becomes the cross. So he throws his jab and holds it out there. Okay, what I'm going to do as his jab comes out, I'm going to slip to the inside and throw my cross, my straight right over his hand. This works really well for people that keep their hand a little lower and jab up. So if he keeps his hand a little low and he jabs up at me, I slip and hit. Okay, he does it again, slip and hit. That's one of my favorite counter punches, okay? And it could be a cross, it can also be an overhand. Okay, so the next method, I said there's two ways. So you slip and hit at the same time as the first method. Okay, to give you another example real quick. He throws a hook at me, I'm gonna bob and weave. I'm gonna bob and weave and hit. You see I'm doing that? Now he throws a hook again, bob and weave and hit. So you can see where I'm hitting, moving my head, being elusive, and hitting at the same time. The second way is called a delayed counter. A delayed counter. For example, he throws that jab and I slip, and as he pulls his hand back, I throw the right hand, that's a delayed counter. He throws his hand, I slip, and then I step in, do a shoulder whirl, and then throw that hook to the body, that's a delayed counter. He throws a right hand, I slip, and then come up with the hook, that's a delayed counter. So that is some different ways you can counter punch off your head movement. Usually you don't counter punch off a normal bob. Okay, a normal bob. Usually do it off a slip bob or off a weave. Because here, with both shoulders forward, you can't really generate a lot of power out of that position. But if I slip bob to the side, then I can come up with the right hand. If I slip bob to this side, I can come up with the left hook to the head. So now, I'm gonna show you kind of what it looks like using old school bobbing and weaving. So now I'm gonna do a little drill where my opponent's just gonna live fire shots at me, straights, maybe some hook, and I'm gonna kind of give you an example of what old school bobbing and weaving looks like. Kind of reminiscent of Jack Dempsey. So let's begin. We touch gloves. He's gonna move, I'm going that medium crouch. He's gonna start throwing punches. See, I'm slipping, bobbing, he's moving. Here, bobbing here, getting close to my opponent. The closer I get to my opponent, I go from a medium crouch to a low crouch. Okay, now, once I start making my opponent miss, I can come out of it with those hooks to the head. Okay, now we're working towards what people call the Dempsey roll. All right, all the Dempsey roll is Jack Dempsey moving his head, bobbing and weaving and punching out of it. They think it's some special technique. It's basically bobbing and weaving and then hooking out of it. So again, we move around, he's in here. I'm working slips, bobbing, slip bobs here, and I can come out of it. Boom, 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 and I go back out. He's gonna throw them jabs. I can slip, hit, bob, moving my head back and forth. So that's a good example, is you can train this with your opponent. If you have a buddy, he can just throw punches at you and you can work slipping, bobbing, weaving. Do a round or two of that. And then you can start adding punches, throw your hooks and your right hands to the head and body out of that old school style of bobbing and weaving. Now I'm gonna show you a quick difference between the Peekaboo, slip, bob and weave, and old school Dempsey. So when he's in his stance, if he's throwing, let's say he just throws jabs at me. I'm gonna show you how Dempsey slips and I'll show you the Peekaboo. So Dempsey, slip. So that's that medium crouch. Now let me show you the Peekaboo. The Peekaboo slip is more at the waist. Hands are on the face now, protecting the jawline. All right, slip. So I bend at the waist more. That's the difference between a Peekaboo slip and like an old school Dempsey slip. Now the weave, the difference between the weave. Now, he throws that rear hand. Remember, I got a bob and weave. All right, so he throws that rear hand, I bob and weave. You see I bend and hinge at the lower back, keep the eyes up, and then I can come out of it with the hook. Now, the Peekaboo, you bend more, you keep the head up a little bit more, you stay a little more upright, and you bend more at the legs. So the Dempsey weave is all in the waist, jackknifing, where the Peekaboo is you're squatting down. It's a knee bend. So show you the Dempsey, he's gonna throw a right hook and a left hook. I'm gonna show the Dempsey, bob and weave, okay, and then he throws that hook, bob and weave. I'm gonna bend at the waist, now I'll show you the Peekaboo. Well, I'm here. You see I bend, keep my head up more, and bend in my legs. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really love watching Jack Dempsey, Rocky Marciano. Of course, I'm a huge Tyson fan. To see some of the older type techniques that they used to use back in the day. Have a good day.